All right, man. Remember that article we read with the Pistons Power? They jumped to the conclusion that Cade Cunningham uh, had not recruited any of the players to Detroit, and he didn't do his job. To me, it's weak. I just be honest with you. I'm not a fan of recruiting people that, especially you don't know. Um, Now if it's somebody that like you're cool with, y'all, that's different. Or somebody that reached out and try to convince them. But going out there trying to recruit people, man, what has happened to American masculinity? You know what I'm saying? Because if you ever notice, you hear moms say, well, you'll hear their sons never want to ask their fathers for something. That's a natural programming from a man, not to want to ask another man to do something. That's just in our bones, right? You know, so when they're popularizing and trying to, say that, well, Cade didn't do his job and recruit. Hey, like I said in the original video, you don't know that to be factual. And this is about a week or two ago. You don't know that to be true. And B, I kind of agree with Derrick Rose in this thing. It's like, no, I'm not recruiting people. Like, that shit weak as hell. Teaming up and the whole. That's why they had to create even a harder salary cap or a harder threshold. But check out the Detroit Pistons Talk playlist. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And that's why they had to create a thicker or a harder threshold for people to comply with. That's why. That's exactly why. These dudes, man, they it's different. It's different. It's very, very different. Like, bro, like, just hoop. And then they team up, and people, no matter how many super teams they seen fail, LA with Kobe and them, they seen the struggle with Miami Heat and LeBron and them. They see all these, what Cade and James Harden did in Brooklyn, what James and them did in Philadelphia. It fails every time. Down there, the Warriors and the Warriors put it off beautifully. The Celtics put it off beautifully. But more times than not, super teams have failed to win championships. That is what we've seen. But free agency Cade Cunningham worked to bring Austin Reeves to Detroit Pistons and others, apparently. They said even though Detroit Pistons amassed their third most regular season wins as a franchise during the 25-26 campaign, the team revived a fair amount of criticism for their patience back in February at the trade deadline. At the time, the Pistons were the first place of the Eastern Conference, were looked at as a squad missing one final piece in order to compete with a title, but Detroit was content with making a three-team trade and sending Jaden Ivey for Kevin Huerter to Chicago. In retrospect, the Pistons could have used a secondary scorer. I mean, not even in retrospect. Everybody's seen that. Alongside Cade Cunningham and Jalen Durant, especially consider how much Ladder struggled during the playoffs against Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. However, Pistons president of basketball operations, Tracy Langdon, settled the marginal moves while keeping track on the progress made by Cade Cunningham, Durant, and Sar Thompson when the lightest were the brightest in the postseason. Now, 2 months after their playoff demise, the Pistons are receiving the end of some criticism for passivity during the offseason, which is slightly confounding considering the relative overhaul that has taken place in the Motor City over the last 2 months. But as always, one big swing value much more than three middle of the road moves. So Detroit is in a position to accept some criticism for their reluctance to make a home run deal during the summer. And that's nothing new with Detroit teams. Banking on internal improvement, quote, has been the thought going back from last summer when they did make a big move going into the season. NBA senior writer Vince Goodwill said they wanted to see how Jalen Durant, Asar Thompson, and Ron Holland would play together. They led to 60 wins. Now you're thinking Detroit was going to make a big move this past offseason. Cade Cunningham was really involved in the potential recruitment of Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves was signed with the Lakers. Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving. Those are all names the Pistons are interested in. No moves materialized, and they're going to bank on restricted free agent Jalen Durant and Asar Thompson's extension. So, I mean, tell us something we didn't know. um, other than Cade recruiting. But I mean, this is they they were saying the price was too high, and I agree with them. Some of these prices that they asking, like 4 first-round picks for Trey Murphy, and they want this, they want a haul for Kevin Durant. And it's like, bro, these Trey Murphy had made an all-star team. Pate Watson want, $25 million and per year. It's like, cool, man. The overinflation of the NBA is real. You know what I mean? But let's go.
What is their strategy at this point?
Banking on internal improvement has been the thought going back from last summer when they didn't make a big move going into this season. They wanted to see how Jalen Durant and Asar Thompson and Ron Holland would play together. It led to 60 wins. Now you're thinking Detroit was going to go make a big move this past offseason. Cade Cunningham was very involved in the potential recruitment of Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves re-signed with the Lakers. Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, those were all names the Pistons were interested in. No moves materialized, and now they're going to bank on the restricted free agent of Jalen Durant and Asar Thompson's extension.
All right, so you heard him. So I mean, that's what they gonna bank on. But they also set themselves up with a lot of their contracts. They set themselves up with a lot of their contracts to be able to make a move at the trade deadline. And I think this time they can't afford to get to the trade deadline and miss. They can't afford to get to that deadline and miss, in my opinion. They can't swing and miss at the deadline. And if they do swing and miss, at that deadline, that's gonna be a mistake. That's gonna be a mistake. That's gonna be a mistake. So, but ultimately, we'll see what's popping. But Cade did try to recruit, and simple as this, man. It's hard to get players to come to Detroit. It's hard to get people to come to Detroit. It is. It's hard to get people to come to small markets. Just think they was trying to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think people forgot that. They was trying to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And ultimately, it didn't happen. He chose to go to Atlanta. And had you got him, in the way he played, and if he'd have played how he played in Atlanta, you're probably thinking about they probably, get to the finals and maybe even possibly do more damage than that, not just getting there and winning it. But so got Detroit Pistons Talk playlist, thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, find me on X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, the whole nine. Peace.